Good day everyone! So today's video, we will have to know the context of the book The 10-Minute Trainer. This practical grab it and go book gives you 150 ways to use teachable moments which you can reinforce learning in powerful and memorable ways. This book is subdivided into 3 parts. The first part contains the collection of got-a-minute activities to the Take 5 games which increases learner motivation, interest, and involvement. All the activities are from 60 seconds to 10 minutes in length, which helps learners review, remember, and apply important information. In the part 2, it explains 2 powerful instructional tools, the learning compass and the training map. Moreover, it shows how to include the book concepts and activities in your own training by using 5 Power Hour training templates. And lastly, for the part 3, it offers 4 Get a Clue elements to increase learner motivation and retention. What's a picture worth? Suggestions for making your training more image-rich. Ways to check for understanding and a unique training activity called station rotation. In today's generation, learners have a totally different learning expectations than folks did 50 years ago. And the biggest change in how people learn today, it is because of television. Television has conditioned us to expect fast-paced attention-getting methods of information delivery. Second, it reduced the length of time that we pay attention by delivering information and entertainment in shorter and shorter segments of time. And lastly, it reawakened us to the power of the image to teach, entertain, convince, and make a message memorable. So why 10 minutes? Since most television-dominated cultures are moving towards shorter program times and longer commercial breaks, there's a need to change the methods of instruction to meet the television-conditioned learning needs and shorter attention spans of the audiences, which means that there should be a break-up information delivery into shorter lecture segments while increasing learner involvement throughout the training. So a 10-minute trainer is based on 2 fundamental training principles of the 21st century. Short segments of instructions are better than longer ones, and learners remember more when they are involved in the learning. What the brain gains and how the learners benefit from the outcome of television viewing. First, it demonstrates the power and potential of an image-rich medium of learning. Second, television is also a brain compatible that it keeps the mind engaged by using a variety of constantly changing sounds and images. And lastly, human brain loves short informational segments followed by quick breaks, and all of it packaged in a high energy, fast-paced, and image-rich ways. In connection between how television delivers its messages and how the trainers delivers theirs is clear. In order to create a brain-compatible learning experiences, there should be a 3-dimensional imagery that such as physical movements, spatial activities, improvisations, and games that get the learner's whole body involved in the learning process. Got a minute or 60 seconds activities help learners review, repeat, and remember. Each of these activities lasts about 60 seconds and involves learners in a variety of hands-on, upbeat, and thought-provoking ways. Why 60 seconds? A 60-second activity is doable than a 60-minute activity. It is short enough to hold the learner's attention, yet long enough to provide a quick review of a segment of information. And lastly, it keeps the training participants attentive, interested, involved, and learning. The following are the 60-second activities and what each activity can do to the learners. The first 60-second activity is connection. So it is an opening activity that helps learners focus on what they know or what to know while also introducing themselves to the other learners. A connection differs from an icebreaker because the latter is usually social and not topic related, whereas the former always connects learners to the topic as well as to each other. So what does a connection do to learners? So Learners will form a safe learning community with the other learners in the room. It reminds themselves of their own personal learning goals, become aware of what they already know about the training topic, and focus their energy on learning from the moment they enter the room. Time sponges. It is a short topic-related activity that soaks up time that would normally be spent on non-training things. There are 3 kinds of time sponges. First, we have quick start sponges, take a break sponges, and early to finish sponges. Quick start sponges soak up 2 or 3 minutes before the official opening. For take a break sponges, it soak up a few minutes of break time for learners who want to continue working with the materials or have nothing to do. Early to finish sponges, these activities fill time when learners have completed their project and are waiting for others to finish. So what does a time sponge can do? First, it focuses learners on the topic and build a safe, productive learning community, make participants self-directed learners, and increase the actual amount of training time that is content-related. Next, we have pair share. So it is a way to invite learners in participating a class discussion. During a pair share, each learner turns to another person and engages in a short discussion about something that is topic related. So what does a pair share can do? So it reviews learner information in an easy, quick, low-risk way. Remember easily what they have just heard, connect what they had just heard with what they already know, and become more comfortable with interaction and active involvement in the learning. Next activity, we have shout out. It is an activity that encourages learners to state what they already know by responding to a topic-related question. So what does a shout out can do? So it elicits verbal responses from a group of learners. It structures learner statements. Second, it makes the group responsible for thinking up the answers. It involves more learners, increase critical thinking, validate what the learners already know, and transform a lecture from a monologue into a dialogue. Then we have think and write activity. So the learners here take a moment to think about what they have learned and then write their thoughts. So what does a think and write can do to a learner? So it depends their own understanding of the concept learned, link what they have learned from what they already know, experience a moment of quiet energy, discover what they may still have a question, and begin to internalize the information they are learning. The next activity we have is signals. So it is a hand or body motion or a choral response used by learners to answer a question or demonstrate their understanding of a concept. So what does a signal can do to learners? So the learners remain awake and involved in the lecture, think about what they've heard, make some opinion based on decisions about what they've learned, interact with the new information, and stay focused on material being presented. Continuing, we have doodles. So the learners here simply create images, drawings to represent a topic-related fact or concept. So what does a doodle can do to a learner? So a learner can remember information longer than they would if they just listen to a lecture and then write down words. So they begin to move learning into long-term memory, have a little fun with the learning, represent concepts in a more interesting, creative way, deepen their understanding of the material, and have the access of power to the visual image. Pop-ups. It is a kinesthetic activity that increases physical energy while learners review material. So with a pop-up activity, a few or all of the learners stand up or sit down. So what does a pop-up can do to a learner? So while standing, they respond to a question or comment. So increase their own physical energy while talking. So link what they are learning to what they already know, enjoy a little friendly competition, and think literally on their feet, standing and sitting quickly. Markups. It is an activity in which learners mark the written materials in certain ways so that they will remember the information longer. So what does a markup can do to a learner? So it remains focused on the written material in front of them, think about the information, analyze the new information while reading, make the written material more meaningful, find the written key points more quickly, and review written information more easily. tickets out. It is a written comment from the learners about what they have learned, what part of the information are still confusing to them, what they consider to be the most important concept or main idea from the material presented. So what does a ticket out can do to a learner? So it assesses their own understanding of what they have learned, ask questions or make comments about the materials anonymously in case they are shy about doing. So decide what has been most important to them, become aware of any confusions that they may be feeling, and give the trainer honest feedback about the training. Then we have action plans. It is a participant's verbal or written commitment to do something with what he learned. It encourages learners to think about the learning and to use it in some way after the training. So what does a 60-second action plan can do to a learner? So it reviews what they have learned, remember their personal learning goals, evaluate whether or not these goals have been met, decide upon a course of action, make a commitment to follow this course of action, apply what they have learned to a real-life experiences, and realize that true learning involves doing something with what they have learned. Lastly, for a 60-second activity, we have celebration. It is a closing activity that ends the training on a positive note, often with a burst of energy. It ensures that training participants leave feeling good about what they have learned. So what does a celebration do to a learner? So create an outburst of positive energy and connections among the learners. It strengthens the learning community of the group. It reconnects learners to each others, to the topic. It reminds learners of what they have learned, encourage learners to make a commitment, and end the training on an upbeat, positive, and memorable note. Then we have Take 5 games that help learners wrap it up, reinforce, apply, and practice. The 10 games and activities are from 5 to 10 minutes in length. Some are collaborative and some are competitive. So why Take 5? So Take 5 games refers to activities that learners can do in a 5 or 10 minutes. So this is long enough for the games to include some movement as well as review, and short enough that most trainers can fit them in even when extensive material to cover. These activities also wrap up the learning, that is, they provide time for learners to reinforce, apply, and practice what they've learned. The following are the 5 and 10 minute games and a few notes of what each games can do to the learners. The first game, we have Postcard Partners. It is an opening game that connects learners to each other and to the topic in an entertaining way. Each learner chooses a piece of postcard, then stands and finds his partner or partners, the participants in the group who have the other pieces that go with his postcard. So what does a postcard partner can do? It connects with each other and the topic, begins to form a learning community, focus on the topic, begin a dialogue about the training concepts, and move physically around the room. Next game, we have the gallery walk. In this activity, participants write on various pieces of chart paper that you've taped to the training room's wall. With the gallery walk, you can gather a lot of learner-created information in a little time. The activity is easily adaptable to the training goals, your learners' needs, the size of the group, and the learning environment. So what does a gallery walk can do to a learner? So it connects learners to both new and old information, help learners focus on what they already know, build a strong learning community, gather a large amount of topic-related information, be a pre- and post-training self-assessment, act as a needs assessment, and provide learners with an opportunity to physically move around while reviewing material. Then we have Take a Stand. In here, learners remain seated while participating in a small group discussion about topic-related issues. Learners move around the room and choose a designated place to stand before engaging in a small group discussion. So what does a Take a Stand can do to a learner? It recognizes important topic-related concepts and issues, analyze their own perceptions of these concepts and issues, take an instant position on a topic-related issue, and refine their own opinions based on the small group discussion. Next game, we have Grab That Spoon. It is a quick review game with a dash of friendly competition. Learners sit in a small group and take turns asking each other questions for points or tokens. So, what does Grab That Spoon do to a learner? So, it review materials quickly and easily, add a friendly competition, allow learners to generate the review questions, include physical action, give learners time to discuss their own understanding, and take a topic-related competitive break from the lecture. Another game, we have Place Your Order. It is a review game in which participants work together to put a series of cards in the correct order. Each card describes specific steps in a topic-related procedure. So what does Place Your Order can do to a learner? So it reviewed the sequence of steps for topic-related procedures, analyzed the out-of-order sequence, work cooperatively together, evaluate information, decide whether they agree with what other learners, discuss differences of perceptions, and apply what they have learned to a specific job-related situation. Then we have Metaphor Magic. It uses the power of metaphors and analogies to capture the essence of a training concept. Metaphors and analogies are phrases that compare one thing with another thing that is unlike the first. So what does a metaphor magic can do to a learner? So, a learner can link new learning to vivid mental images, increase long-term memory, think and remember in creative ways, understand the essence of concept, make a complicated concept simple to grasp, use a higher-order thinking skills, and learn faster. Another game, we have Let's Trade. So the learners here write a comment, question, or piece of information as directed by the trainer on an index card. Then the learners walk around the room trading cards a number of times. So what does Let's Trade do to a learner? So it writes comments, questions, or concerns anonymously without fear of sounding stupid, analyze and rank order important training concepts, review the whole group considers to be the most important information, discuss learning created questions, demonstrate the understanding, move around the room while reviewing, questioning, and discussing. So another game, we have Each One Teach One. So the learners here has the opportunity to teach and coach each other. Learners pair up and teach each other what they just learned, give each other feedback, practice a skill together, coach each other as they practice, and provide mutual support by encouraging. So what does Each One Teach One can do to our learners? So it demonstrates a new skill, give each other feedback, coach each other, discuss what they have learned, ask each other questions, encourage each other, and provide a mutual support. Another, we have the walkabout. It is a way to give learners the opportunity to walk and talk at the same time. Instead of sitting or standing in one place, participants form walkabout pairs or triads and walk around the room or outside back in while reviewing the training material. So what does a walkabout can do or we can benefit? So take a topic-related break that includes exercise, ask topic-related questions of each other, get some fresh air and exercise while reviewing, make an action plan, discuss best practices and learn from each other, and stay interested, motivated, and awake during a long training sessions. And lastly, for a 5 and 10-minute game, we have Blackout Bingo. It combines a conceptual review with a physical exercise, friendly competition, and a high-energy ways to celebrate learning. So what does a Blackout Bingo can do to our learners? So it decide what training concepts are really important, individualize the training results, define the training concepts, give a real-life examples, choose what they want to remember, and celebrate the learning with a high-energy connecting closing activity.
Brain-based learning and training. The learning brain. The human brain is a phenomenally efficient and eminently adaptable learning tool. How it manages to learn as much as it does, as fast as it does, still amazes the researchers who study it. As trainers, the question we need to ask is, why, in the formal learning environment of the classroom or training room, is it assumed that learners must be coerced to learn? The answer is twofold and may surprise you. First, most formal methods of learning aren't based on how the human brain learns. Instead, they are based primarily on tradition, as well as on issues such as control, time, type of material to be covered, and situational constraints. The second reason we assume that people must be made to learn in a formal learning environment is that the human brain willingly keeps its attention focused on only what holds its interest. A person, no matter what the age, will always turn his attention to whatever is important to him, not to what someone else says is important. Again, importance has to do with a person's own needs, desires. So in formal classes and training, where the course content is often irrelevant or boring to the learner, the human brain must be convinced in some way that it needs to pay attention. Emotion directs attention, which directs learning. The desire to explore what interests us in the world around us, in our own time and own way, is basic to the human brain. When we see, as trainers, understand the brain research about learning, and we know what drives learning, emotion, then we can create learning experiences that are compatible with how the brain learns, rather than using methods that only tire and frustrate it. In part 2, we will tackle about reticular activating system, the triune brain, learning the natural way, learning compass, training map, and the Power R training templates. Reticular activating system. This pinky-sized area of the brain has a scientific name, the reticular activating system or RAS. A more common name for it is the attention maker. It is located near the brainstem, survival brain, the part of your brain that controls the fight or flight response. It sends electronic signals from your brainstem through the limbic or emotional brain to your cerebrum, thinking brain. The attention maker has two specific jobs. It makes or breaks attentions. The first job is to make your thinking brain pay attention to what is going on in the environment. The second job is to break or stop your thinking brain's attention to the environment, causing the cerebrum to go on automatic pilot, that is, to do certain actions automatically while thinking of other things. The attention maker does both jobs by screening the sensory data coming into your brain from the brainstem. Then it decides what data is important enough to send along electronic circuits to the cerebrum. When the important sensory information reaches your thinking brain, you suddenly become conscious of specific sights, sounds, movements, smells, textures, and the like that are around you. If the attention maker decides that the sensory information is not that important, it will stop the electronic messages to your thinking brain, effectively screening out the sensory data so that you don't see, hear, or otherwise notice an important thing. Time and energy. It takes a great deal of mental energy to be consciously aware of all the sensory stimulation around you. It also takes energy to decide what, if anything, to do about all the sensory data. The thinking brain can save itself a great deal of energy by not consciously paying attention to every sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, movement, and so forth. It also takes time to consciously process all that sensory data. If the cerebrum had to notice and then had to decide how to respond to everything in the environment in any given moment, simple tasks could take hours to complete. Learning, teaching, and the RAS. The reticular activating system is crucial to directing and maintaining a learner's attention, regardless of whether the learning takes place in formal places such as classrooms or in real-life situations such as on-the-job training. The importance of this for us as trainers is clear. When we want our learners to pay close, conscious attention to important information, we have to catch the attention of the RAS by changing something in the environment. Changes that engage the RAS. First, we can change things that have to do with our own instructional methods. This includes vary the tone, speed, loudness, or softness of our own voice, move, gesture while we speak, act out a story, ask a question, add humor, use topic-related visual images. We can also change the activities we use to involve learners, such as participate in short, quick review activities, stand and stretch, walk, take notes, draw, write topic-related comments, discuss, make a quick review, quiz. Last, we can change the physical room environment. We can move chairs into clustered groups, use round tables, have a breakout space, rearrange desks into smaller cluster groups, play music that either energizes or relaxes learners, provide snacks and beverages on occasion, get rid of anything that is aesthetically unpleasing, decorate the walls, and make sure the room looks and feels warm, inviting, and interesting. The Try Brain and Learning, the Downshifting Brain. Your brain will do whatever it needs to do to ensure your survival, including learning what it needs to learn in order to get you out of a dangerous situation. And to make sure you don't place yourself in the harm's way again, your brain will warn you in the future whenever you experience any situation similar to the painful one. It does this by lumping all sensory data together in a memory pocket labeled danger. All the sensory data, sight, sound, smells, movement, textures that were around you when you were in fight-flight mode become part of the danger pact and according to your brain are to be avoided in the future. The implications of this for learning and teaching are profound. Most wounded learners, folks who have had negative experiences with teachers, classroom, peers, or schools, avoid things that remind them of that pain. Classes, workshops, trainings, tasks, blackboards, textbooks, instructions, and trainers. When these wounded learners have to attend a class or training, they downshift before they even arrive because of the warnings they are sounding in their heads. They walk into the room already in a fight-flight state. Their brain is already planning to do whatever it needs to do to get them out of there. Another even more important implication for learning is this. Training participants can downshift while the training is going on as well. Any physical or psychological discomfort will trigger the beginning stages of downshifting. When discomfort increases, learning decreases. From connections to community. A safe learning community means that learners can make mistakes and learn from them. They can ask all kinds of questions and not be afraid of sounding stupid. They can disagree and not to be put down. They will not feel threatened either physically or psychologically, and they will have opportunities to learn in ways that support their own needs and desires. A safe learning community also means that you, the trainer, can also make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You can change what doesn't work and polish what does work. You can adjust the training to fit the needs of the learners, even while the training is going on. Best of all, you can be yourself. Authentic, honest, and uniquely you. You will not feel threatened either physically or psychologically. You can give it your personal best and know that your best is enough. In a safe learning community, learners always treat each other with more tolerance, patience, humor, and compassion, as opposed to a class where individuals are strangers to each other and where no personal, meaningful connections take place. Techniques are never value neutral. Two important concepts to keep in mind when creating safe learning communities are: you teach who you are and what you value. You can't help it. You would be like stepping out of your own skin to do otherwise. Who you are, your own unique spirit, personality traits, energy, shines through every word you say, everything you do, every decision you make. What you value about life and learning will also shine through and give a message, consciously or not, about what's okay and not okay. The instructional techniques you choose to use or not also reflect your deepest values. In spite of the old myth that it's inappropriate to teach values in a class or training, you can't help but do exactly that. Every choice you make, including which training activities to use, are values-based choices. How you set up a training room will give a message about what you value. The activities your learners engage in also send a message. There's no judgment about any of this. It just is. The Learning Compass and Learning the Natural Way. Here's an overview of the Learning Compass and its directional points that represent 4 steps in learning the natural way. First, North represents self. Here, the learner decides what information or skill she wants to learn, why she wants to learn it, and what she already knows and has experience related to the subject. Second, East represents others. The learner finds out what other people know about the subject. These people may be family, friends, or other learners in the learning experience itself. The learner links what she knows with what they know. Third, South represents information. The learner begins to gather new information to add to what she and others know. She may gather this information a number of different ways through books, videos, courses, meetings, real-life experiences, and the like. Last, West represents action. The learner puts the new knowledge to use, practices a skill, or does something with what she has learned. This is where all learning leads to action and completion of a goal, the new desired outcome, or the end result. Training map. The training map is a metaphor for the 4 steps of the teaching process and what a trainer needs to do in order to make the learning experience meaningful and memorable. The descriptions of both the compass and map may sound similar. Just keep in mind that the compass is a learner's perspective and the map is a trainer's perspective. Both tools have the same goal, to make the learning stick. The person responsible for the practical application and huge success of the training map in corporate circles is David Meyer, director of the Center for Accelerated Learning. In his book, The Accelerated Learning Handbook 2000, Meyer calls the 4-step training model the 4 phases of learning. Meyer labels each of the 4 steps as 1. Preparation, 2. Presentation, 3. Practice, and 4th, performance. Using the training map. Step 1. Making the connections. Meyer says that the goal of this first step is to arouse learners' interest, give them positive feelings about the forthcoming learning experience, and put them into an optimal state for learning. Because you know that learners need to connect with their own learning goals and what they and others already know about the training topic, choose opening activities that will give them time to make these connections. When you do this, you also create a psychologically safe learning community, which is a crucial component of successful training. Step 2. Explaining the concepts. Meyer states that the goal of the second step is to help the learners encounter the new learning material in ways that are interesting, enjoyable, relevant, and multisensory. Because learners need to link new information to what they already know, give them time to discuss the new material. Divide your lecture time into short segments of 10 or 20 minutes. Step 3. Practicing the skills. Meyer explains that the goal of the third step is to help learners integrate and incorporate the new knowledge or skill in a variety of ways. Include time for hands-on practice, building skills, or reviewing what was learned in an active way. Step 4. Celebrating the learning. Meyer says that the goal of the fourth step is to help learners apply and extend their new knowledge or skill to the job so that the learning sticks and performance continually improves. In other words, learners need to return to where they first began, to their own learning goals and what they plan to do with what they learned. Time-saving design and delivery tools. Why a Power Hour training template? The Power Hour training templates are training design formats already created and ready to use. They won't show you what to teach. You are the expert when it comes to your topics and material. Instead, they will show you how to put together an hour of training by using your material and ideas and activities from the 10-minute trainer. What a Power Hour template can do. Besides reducing the time it will take you to design an hour of training, when you use these training templates, you will get a hands-on feel for how the activities in this book can be inserted into your training content, practice the concepts you've learned from this book, apply these new ideas and activities to a variety of training topics, feel more comfortable with what you have learned, increase learner involvement and retention of the material you teach, become a more time-efficient training professional. The first 3 training templates will show you how to organize a training hour with 10-minute lecture segments. The fourth and fifth templates will give you examples of a training hour with 15 and 20-minute lecture segments. In all 5 templates, you insert your own training material into the lecture segments. The 5 training templates are followed by one example of how to use a template with actual training content.
Get the clue 4 elements to increase motivation and memory in learning. So the acronym clue will help you remember how to make your training both motivational and memorable. So the 4 elements includes C as creative, L, link, U as useful, and E as emotional. For C as creative, it means you consistently choose methods of teaching and learning that are interesting, unusual, and intriguing to the participants. It will exercise trainers' creativity in designing and delivering unforgettable training and allow time for learners to practice and apply the new information in creative ways. For the link, it means that you provide ample opportunities for learners to link the training concepts to what they already know, that is, to link the new to the old, to deepen their own understanding of the material and can remember it longer. U as useful means that the new information is directly applicable to learners' lives. And E as an emotional means that there is a positive correlation between what training participants are learning and how they feel about what they are learning. Under creative elements, the following are the techniques that make the training more creative. So first, we have write brain reports. It gives learners the opportunity to work in a small group to create informational reports to present to the large group. Instead of virtually stating information, each small group uses one of the following right brain reporting methods: song, rap, poem, and dance. Second, we have stand, walk, talk. Balance learners' times of passive setting and listening with active standing, walking, and talking. Learners can form standing groups while they review the material. Third, we have brainstorming time. Whenever possible, encourage learners to work collaboratively in pairs, triads, small and large groups to create multitudes of ways to solve problems, provide solutions, answers, collect facts, and think of new uses for learned materials. Brainstorming, by definition, means that all answers are accepted for the time being so that creative process isn't stifled by prematurely judging an idea as unworkable. Another technique is we have more than one right answer. So expect learners to think of more than one right answer to any question or other learners ask. The 60-second shout-outs are perfect for this purpose. With a shout-out, learners have to come up with a number of correct answers, thus forcing them to continue thinking in more complex creative ways. Another is learner-created challenges. These techniques have learners create their own questions, quizzes, and games. For example, working in table groups, each group can create a game such as place your order or grab that spoon by using the material from the training. They exchange the games with the other groups so that they are playing a game that is different from the one their group created. Learners can also challenge each other with their own game show questions and handmade quizzes. Another is make it outrageous. So, what is the most outrageous things I could do to get this point across and bring this point home? Or what is the most outrageous thing I could have my trainings participants so that they remember this information forever? Then, do that thing or a milder version of it the next time you're training. So hang out with creative people. If you don't think you're creative enough, or if you find it hard to come up with a variety of creative training ideas, find yourself a couple of creative friends who do what you do and learn from them. You can also take workshops, talk to other trainers, collect ideas, call friends with questions, and watch and learn. Then, trust your learners. It's truly amazing how creative a group of learners can be. Given a half of chance with a few guidelines to follow and a number of options to choose from, they will surprise you every time. So give them space, time, and opportunity to play with the training concepts and see what they come up with. Another element is link element. To make sure that learners link the new information with what they already know, choose from the following techniques. So, the following techniques includes take a minute. Linking new learning to old doesn't have to take up much training time, especially if you are embedded the linking throughout the training. Then we have lecture the links. During the lectures, be sure to point out how the new information fits with what the learners already know about the topic. Then we have use games. Choose a game format, substitute own content combined with what learners already know, and give them time to review new and old information by playing the game. We have also learner-created games. As with the creative element of Clue, hand the game making over to your training participants. Have them work in a small group to create board or card games by using all the topic-related information at hand. Then we have talk about it. Always allow time for learners to discuss what they've learned and how it fits with what they know. Continuing, we have another element, the useful element. The more practical and useful you can make the training content, the more receptive participants will be to learning and using it afterwards. So one of the techniques includes real-life challenges. So give learners real-life problems to solve. Small groups can each work on a different challenges and then report their solutions to the whole group. We have also demonstrations. So role plays are out. Most training participants hate the thought of role playing. The word demonstration doesn't hold the same negative connotation for most learners. So give learners time to demonstrate how they could use the information. Small group work to create demonstrations that could take the form of skits, chart drawings, lists, presentations, news reports, and the like. We have also improvisation. This is an activity that involves learners in a simulated real-life situation without using rehearsed script. The purpose of the improvisation is to model or use the new training concept. Another, we have gravity wall. This is a large wall space covered with chart paper where training participants write ideas, questions, reactions, or comments on the paper with filled pens. And another, we have job shadowing. If possible, allow time for learners to observe how the training concepts and skills are being applied by shadowing someone who is actually using those concepts and skills. We have also guest speakers. Invite a person to speak who is already using the skills you are teaching. Allow time for learners to ask questions and engage in a dialogue with this person. And lastly, we have action plans. So learners times toward the end of the training, think, talk, and write about what they plan to do with what they have learned. Use the ticket outs or action plans to do this. When learners make a verbal or written commitment, use what they've learned after the training is over. Last but not the least, for the emotional element. So you already know the real learning only takes place when learners make positive emotional connections with the content and each other. So the following are the positive learning experiences that you can teach to your trainees. So we have connections are the keys. Creating psychological safety during training is crucial for a positive emotional climate. Then we have keep them going. Connections don't just happen at the beginning of the training. The learners need to keep the positive connections going throughout the entire learning process. Then we have right to pass. When you give learners the right to observe an activity instead of having to participate in it, you also give them permission to take care of their own emotional well-being. Then we have need to know guidelines. Sometimes specific behavioral guidelines are necessary for psychological safety. These guidelines are the needed knows about what is acceptable behavior and speech during the training. Then we have what's your baggage. Every person's walking into training room bring along his own emotional baggage. That is the thoughts and behaviors that cause the downshifting into emotional and survival brains. Then also we have sarcasm is out. No matter what anyone tells you, sarcasm is always disguised anger. As what stated earlier, when in doubt, leave it out. If learners' way of teasing others feels sarcastic to you, it probably is. You may need to talk with the person privately about the sarcasm. Then we have take care of it now. When you notice problem in the training that is causing negative emotions among learners, stop to address it. This can be done privately, one-on-one, with a small group with the problem lies, or with the whole group. Then we have go with your gut. Pause at different times during the training and become aware of both overt and covert emotional nuances in the group. By doing this, you will understand the emotional state of the most of the learners. Then we have be careful of pain. Some trainers says they begin with an uncomfortable experience in order for learners to perceive a need. That is the need to stop the discomfort by learning what is the trainer wants them to learn. You said it, but did they get it? How to check for understanding. Checking for understanding simply means you stop talking and ask learners to say or do something with the information you just gave them. By doing this, you'll know immediately whether learners understand what they just heard. You also know whether you need to teach any of the concept you've presented, and you can correct any comprehension errors the instant they rise instead of waiting for a review time later in the training. Following are the 5 activities to check the understanding. So we have first, repeat back, think back, teach back, play back, and report back. In repeat back, ask learners to repeat aloud to you or to another learner what they just heard you say, or tell them to paraphrase what they've learned using their own words to explain it. Another is we have think back. Ask the learners to think about the new information and how it fits with what they already know. Invite them to share a comment or a question about what they've heard you say. Then we have teach back. Give learners time to teach each other in order to master the material. They can do this in pairs with one person acting as the teacher and other acting as the student. Then we have playback. Do a short improvisation with the participants using both yourself and volunteers to demonstrate important concepts you've just taught. And lastly, we have report back. After a training session ends, learners need to apply the new information to specific work situation, evaluate the results, report the results to the trainer or another qualified colleague, and get feedback from that person. What's a picture worth? The importance of imagery in learning. So what is imagery? It is any teaching method that helps the brain form mental pictures to represent what is being learned. So the following are examples of image-rich tools that includes we have storytelling and anecdotes, metaphors and analogies, doodles, cartoons and photos, symbols, shapes and icons, movement and gestures, physical objects, and lastly, we have videos and any other visual aids. There are a lot of ways to use imagery in training. So first, we have tell stories. Only include stories that relate to the training content. Use a physical space. Designate a portion of the physical space near you to represent a fact or a procedural step. Then we have use movement. Linking a fact or concept to a physical gesture, motion, or body part is a powerful way to move learning into long-term memory. Then we have use graphics whenever possible. Illustrate the charts, slides, overheads, or handout materials with clip art or cartoons. Then draw doodles. In addition to using computer graphics, create a few simple doodles of your own to represent certain concepts. Then we have encourage learners to doodle. As you lecture, invite learners to create their own doodles to represent certain concepts. Then we have use metaphors. Anytime you use a metaphor or an analogy, an illustration comparing the concept you're teaching with an object or idea unrelated to the concept, you are using a powerful image-making technique. Another is use a graphic organizer. These are handout pages that you have created beforehand and that learners use when they are listening and taking notes. Station rotation, learning a lot in a little time. So what is a station rotation? A station rotation is a series of short activities that learners can do in a certain sequences during one portion of the training day or interspersed throughout the day. The short activities will all take place at the same time in different parts of the training room. In small groups, learners rotate from activity to activity, following the written or audio tape instructions at each activity table or stations. All activities are built around concepts taught during the training. All activities introduce, review, or apply these concepts in various ways. Throughout the book summary, what can you achieve when reading this book? So a 10-minute trainer helps you the most of your training time. This practical grab-it book gives you a simple and practical blueprint on how the human brain naturally learns for designing and delivering training quickly and effectively. You will discover the brain research that supports short, quick instructional methods and new ways to motivate learners and increase their ability to remember and use what they've learned. The 10-minute trainer is a guide that will involve training participants in their own learning without sacrificing any training content. Best of all, you will be an expert at teaching a lot in a little time.